Welcome back to West Texas View.
Before the break, we were talking about child play therapy, and there's a couple of questions I want us to go back and revisit before we leave that topic. First of all, what ages are we talking about for play therapy?
For play therapy, we typically see between 5 and 12, but we can take it as a case-by-case basis if there's a child younger than that.
And so a teenager, is that considered an adult, or do you have a special programs for people that fall in the junior high and the high school range?
For teenagers, we see them as well. We just may not take them into the play therapy room, as it's maybe more childish and childlike, but I will certainly counsel them. There are several therapists at Samaritan who will see teenagers, and we may use art projects and create creative ways for the teenagers to express themselves, but there also may be forms of traditional therapy, talk therapy. It may be just whatever is best for the teenager in that moment. And
so how do you know when you go into that? Do you sit and visit with that person first? What would happen if I brought my 12-year-old?
If you brought your 12-year-old, then the first thing would happen is you would call to schedule an appointment, and you would let the person who takes the calls know a little bit about the situation and your child, and then an appointment would be made with a therapist that's best suited for your child's needs. And then at that point, you and your child would come in and meet with the therapist, and you may meet first for a few minutes, and then the therapist, I would take the 12-year-old back as well and spend time with him or her. And then just depending on the needs of the child, if we would need to bring you in again at the end, then I would. But if there's not a need, then the teenager and I could finish the session just he and I or she and I.
But what if the child is non-responsive? Because I've had parents say, there's no point in me taking them to a therapist because they just won't talk to me much. Why would they talk to a therapist?
Well, and that does certainly happen in the first session, that a teenager is being brought against his or her will. They don't want to be there. They're uncomfortable. But then it's at that point where the therapist can work with the teenager to help him or her see that they can benefit from it as well. Even if the teenager feels that he or she shouldn't be in the room for that reason that the parent thinks so, there's still ways that that teenager can find to benefit himself or herself. And so it's just helping the child get to that point where they can see that it's beneficial to open up and to talk and to see that they want to help themselves.
So the bottom line is that there are ways to reach children, even if they don't want to come, or if they're afraid, or if they're nervous, that they'll say something that might disappoint their parents, or lots of ways that you have to reassure them. Well, also talk about some of the reasons that children might need counseling. You mentioned bullying.
Bullying is a big one. It's such a problem not only in schools but on the internet, that it seems like kids just can't escape it. They're being bullied at school, and they go home and they get online, and they're facing the same issues.
And even in some families, they're bullied.
That's true. Siblings can bully one another. So bullying is one big reason that we see children come in for therapy. Other ones are depression and anxiety, which often take different forms in children. So in boys 12 and under, you may see a lot of anger and acting out and aggression that may really be depression manifesting itself through behavior. And girls may tend to withdraw more into themselves, into their bedrooms, and be quiet. And what they're going through is depression. And then when there are changes in the family, then oftentimes the child may not know what to do with their feelings and how to express themselves and how to mourn and grieve the loss of their loved one. Changes in the family, such as blended families and divorce. Anytime there's a change, then sometimes children may need a place to work through what's happening in their lives.
Or even a parent that's going through depression themselves for some reason, loss of a job or something like that, and that affects that child, and so they think it's their fault, and they have a tendency to absorb that into themselves and then become almost like a cold passed down from person to person.
Yes, that can definitely happen, and that's often why we seek to involve the parents in the treatment as well. So if a parent doesn't know how to protect the child from certain things that are going on in the house, or how to be more open, then we can work with the parent to say, this is the situation, this is how you can best walk with your child through this. And so teaching and giving parenting pointers and tips and education as well.
Well, one of the things that I've always been interested in is the gender. Is there more males or more females that you see, or is it about even?
We get both. I think that it seems about even right now in the clients that I see, but I could see how for women in particular, it's just in our culture, it's acceptable to have lots of emotional support and friends and be vulnerable with each other, whereas men don't have that, and boys don't either. And so helping give them the skills that they need to have emotional support, not just in counseling but outside of it as well. So I think a lot of people would be surprised, thinking, why do boys or men need counseling? But they need to express themselves and work through what they're going through.
And society teaches them not to express themselves, but yet they have such a need to. But most of your referrals come from either the parents or from the schools, right? But doctors, ministers, Boy Scout leaders, anybody that works with young people may notice some things that maybe the parents don't.
Yes, we have referrals, like you said, from local area schools, by word of mouth, but also ministers and pastors sometimes may see something that's out of their scope that they're able to help with, and they can refer to us as well. Anyone that works with kids and sees a problem going on that isn't able to be addressed within the family or within that organization, then they can refer to us.
This is really interesting. We're going to have to take a break, but before we do and come back for our last segment, we're going to talk about in that last segment some of the other therapies that she does. So we'll be back in just a minute and continue this conversation.
Stay tuned. West Texas View will be right back.